There are varied type of notions about deserts which any student goes on to carve out right all the way from their childhood even to the present day. This gets reflected in the fact that if you go on to ask someone which is the largest desert in the world, invariably and impromptu, as a reaction, immediate reaction, as if they happen to know the answer, the reply comes Sahara. And that's wrong. The second notion that most of the people go on to be harboring about deserts is a movie-like conception of deserts. That is, deserts go on to comprise of sand, 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 and only sand, which is again incorrect. The third type of a notion that the people go on to harbor about deserts is the deserts are going to be one place that are completely inhospitable, completely barren, and whatnot. And none of these are correct. Of course, perceptions are going to be very, very different from that of a reality. And we are talking about reality in this case. The entire discussion about deserts in this case is going to be centered around what deserts are, how many types of deserts there are, if there are, and what exactly is the type of a life that you go on to see in certain type of deserts, are deserts that are going to be synonymous with the concept of deserts. That is what the deserts are. To begin with, we are beginning with the concept of a desert. What exactly a desert is? Now, talking about this concept, desert is any region which goes on to be having a very low productivity. Now, if you pick up this notion of the deserts in this case, you will going to find these are the features, and that is with respect to the features, it's going to be very low or very high as well. Now, when you go to picking up certain things like the life supporting activity in the deserts, you will go on to find that the deserts will go on to have a life supporting system that is going to be very low. That is, they cannot go on to support life to an extent that is going to be desired. So, of course, it's very low means that it's very difficult for any life to survive in this region. Second is precipitation, that is rainfall. Now, rainfall can go on to be in the form of rain or it can be in the form of snow. And precipitation again is going to be very low in this place. All the deserts are having a lower life support system largely because of a very low amount of rainfall. Then the fertility not only of the soil, fertility of the desert overall, all of it that is going to be conceptualized as a desert. That is it's very low. It's not going to be very high at all in this case. It's very, very low. And of course, because the fertility is low, therefore you won't going to find too many animals. You won't going to find too many plant cover as well. And of course, depending upon the plant, the animal life also goes on to have a commensurate effect in that sense. Then is temperature. And when we going to be talking about temperature, temperatures can be either they can be very, very low or they can be very high. Now, these are the two aspects that are very, very remarkable. And why is it so? Because deserts can be those regions where the temperatures can go to be very low as a minus 40 degrees centigrade or as high as a 58, 59 degrees centigrade. The one that you're going to find in the Libyan desert, and the name of this place that's called as Al-Azizia. Then, talking about productivity, that is the productivity of the land all in all. Now, a desert is a desert, defined as a desert, conceptualized as a desert, portrayed as a desert because of this factor, productivity. That is, all in all, the productivity goes on to be very, very low. And when we say productivity is low, that means it's very, very difficult in a desert region to produce anything there. And that goes on to make for its low productivity. Now, there are deserts spread throughout the whole of the world. There are only few areas which are going to be very congenial for human habitation. Only few areas. And these are the areas that the human beings have completely destroyed. Deserts are still safe largely because they have been untouched by the human being and it's a shame that they're going to be called by the name of human being because their behavior is much more animalistic than the worst enemies as well. And they are the one who are generally going to be responsible for the creation of these type of deserts as well. As you can go on to see it, observe in this case as well. We are going to be talking about some of them. Now, one of these deserts is this is what we never talked about, that is going to be the whole of this region, Antarctic region. Antarctic is the largest desert in the world. It is indeed not Sahara. It's not Sahara. And akin to that of Antarctic is going to be Greenland. That is a desert. And then you're going to find a good number of deserts that are going to be in the coastal areas as well. For example, one of the most important of these deserts is going to be here. That is going to be Namib. That's the desert that we're going to talk of, Namib. Some of these deserts are going to be right in the center of the continent. Gobi is going to be one of them. Kazakhstan is going to be another one of them. Now, these deserts are going to be called by the name of mid-latitude continental deserts. Now, imagine the name mid-latitude. Mid-latitude is going to be 45 degree latitude. Continental means it is going to be in the center of the continent. And when we're going to be talking about it, that is a mid-latitude and continent, that is 45 degree, and in the center of the continent, that is where Gobi is, Kazakhstan is, Kyrgyzstan is, as well as you will go to find some of these deserts like the one that you're going to find in South America, Patagonia, and in North America, that is going to be Nevada desert. That's the place it is going to be. So deserts can go on to be having a variety of type of forms, and we assume you must have heard the name of Sahara, which is of course it's a different type of desert. Arabian desert is a different type of desert. There are no two deserts that are alike. And mind these words, mark these words. There are no two deserts that are alike. All the deserts are going to be different from each other, all of them. And when we say that all of them are going to be different, this basically that goes on to mean that in form, in origin, in shape, in size, in terms of its relationship with the plant cover, animal cover, or any one of them, all of these deserts are always going to be very, very different from each other. So, Sahara is not going to be like any other desert. And same is going to be Kalahari. Kalahari is not going to be like any other desert. And same is going to be with the case of Namib as well. And how is it that they are going to be different? We'll go on to take a look at it. Now, these deserts are not going to be same because they are going to be classified, and they are going to be classified on the basis of course, all the deserts are going to be different, so there must be some basis for getting to know that these deserts are different. And they can be classified on the basis of formation. So, on the basis of formation, deserts are going to be different. On the basis of location, they are different. On the basis of underlying surface and size, again, they are going to be different. So, there are going to be three different criteria for the identification of these deserts, and all of them are different. Mode of formation, location, and underlying surface. On the basis of one of these criteria, that is going to be on the basis of location. So, if you are going to be using location as a basis for identifying deserts, of course, you're going to be having Antarctic. That is, Antarctic is a desert because it's a polar desert. It's called as a polar desert. Greenland and Antarctic are going to be examples of polar deserts in this case. That is because of virtue of location. So, when we're going to be talking mid-latitude continental, then that is going to be in the midst of the latitude, that is 45 degree continental. That means it doesn't going to be having a coastal location, that is Sahara, Atacama. Best example, mid-latitude continental is not Sahara or Atacama. They are going to be two of them. That is Gobi is going to be one. Kalahari can, the Kazakhstan desert are going to be another one, Kazakh, and even in the United States, we're going to be having one of them that's going to be called by the name of Nevada. And then, when you're going to be talking about the coastal regions, then you have Namib, Atacama, as well as California. All three of them are going to be associated with a coastal location. So, from the perspective of its location, we have done this correction, mid-latitude continental, that is Sahara or Atacama. It is Of course, Sahara can go to be in the mid-latitude, but it's not going to be mid-latitude, it's going to be a continental desert. The best example is going to be Gobi and Kyrgyzstan in this region. Sahara also goes on part of continental desert if it's not going to be mid-latitude. On the basis of climate, that is whether it is going to be hot or cold, the deserts can go on to be cold desert, so it can be Gobi, Ladakh or Patagonia. Hot deserts are going to be, of course, Simpson, Gibson, Rural Cali, and of course, not to miss about Sahara. Sahara is also part of the hot desert. So, on the basis of climate, there are going to be two of them. You are going to imagine this is the landscape of Sahara. Imagine completely bare. Completely bare. Antarctic is also going to be part of it. It's also going to be on the basis of climate. Antarctic is a desert and it's the biggest desert in the world. Ladakh is a desert. Rub al Khali is going to be a hot desert and it is the biggest sandy desert in the world from that perspective. Then once you go on to pick up another basis, on the basis of the surface cover, what goes on to be on the surface? So on the basis of this surface cover, if it is going to be sand, if there is going to be sand and only sand, then that is going to be Rub al Khali, only sand surface. If it is going to be talking about rocky, then that is going to be Sahara. Sahara is not exactly a sandy desert, and most of the people who can go to think of having a movie-like conception of Sahara having sand, it's not. Sahara is a rocky desert which is going to be called by the name of Hammada. That is the name that is going to be given locally to it. Hammada. Then stony is a sharp, pointed stones found on the surface. And the rest is Sinai. Sinai is going to be in Egypt. Negev, that is going to be in Israel. Surface, if the top surface is going to be salt, then that is Dasht-e-Kavir. Dasht-e-Kavir is covered with a thin layer of salt on the surface, and that goes to make it different. Dasht-e-Kavir. Taklamakan, that is going to be in the mid-surface, the within region. That is what we're going to be calling it as a desert which is owned by the Chinese, Taklamakan. And if you're going to be talking about salty marsh, that means it's a desert, but it's salty and it's a marshy place, then of course you understand that it's going to be Rann of Kutch. So Rann of Kutch in this case goes on to become a bit. This is the way that how you can go to take a look at Rann of Kutch. Is going to be completely flat, featureless for a good amount of a distance. Taklamakan is of course, going to be one of those hypotheses that is going to be having a salt on the surface. It is in this region that the Chinese going to explode their nuclear device, and in a lake called as Loch Nor. That's a salted lake. And Sinai goes on to be a stony desert in this case. On the basis of the mechanism of formation of the deserts, then they are going to be physiological deserts. Now understand this part. Physiological deserts are going to be polar deserts. Now these are the deserts which will be deserts come what may. Now when we go on to say come what may, it basically goes on to mean that do whatever, they will continue to remain deserts only. And when we go on to say that they will continue to remain deserts, it basically means that no matter what, there is no way that you can go on to change this basic character. For example, most of these deserts go on to owe their origin to very low temperature. The temperature in this case is going to be so low that there is virtually no possibility whatsoever that it can go on to have any plant life. For example, at minus 40 degrees centigrade, it hardly has got any moisture holding capacity. It hardly goes on to be having any type of rain, and that is going to be significant. So nothing can grow in that place. And of course, this is what it exactly goes into Antarctic and Greenland. Temperatures in this case go on to below minus 40 degrees centigrade. So of course, there is no possibility of any rain. There can't be any rain largely because at that low temperature, it is virtually impossible for the air to hold any moisture. Then there is no plant or animal life that goes on to exist in that place. So Antarctic is a perfect desert. There is the most perfect desert. If a desert can go on to be, that is going to be Antarctic. It can't be Sahara. This is largely because in Sahara, There can be some possibility of rain because the temperature of the air is 25-26 degree centigrade, and which can go to have certain type of a rain bearing capacity in that case. Because at that temperature the air is capable of holding some moisture. But then at minus 40 degrees centigrade, it is going to be very, very, very difficult for any amount of an air to hold any moisture. That is another part of it. And now, on the basis of the mechanism of formation, how is it that the deserts going to form? We have been talking about it. So that is going to be subtropical high pressure belt deserts. Now, subtropical high pressure belt deserts, they go to owe their origin to the subsidence of the winds. Now, there are two conditions. As you can go to understand it, anywhere, under any circumstance, if the winds happen to rise, if the winds are rising, supposing in this manner, what they are going to do is that these rising winds will go to lead to formation of clouds, and then will go to rain. If the winds are subsiding, if this is the way that the winds are subsiding, if this is how these winds are subsiding, what will going to happen in this case is it is not going to be lifting with some moisture. Now, in this previous case, the air rises, and as the air rises, it cools. As it cools, it leads to formation of clouds, and then at a certain point of a time, these clouds start shedding off this water which they can't hold at that temperature when they're going to become cool. Now, in this case, when the air keeps on subsiding, there's absolutely no possibility of the air rising, and of course, moisture rising at all. So, they are the one who go to origin to the subsidence. They all going to lie on the western side of the continent. That is the best part of the western side of the continent, and in the subtropics. Now, subtropics means it's not tropic, it's not 23 degree latitude. It is going to be 30 to 40 degree latitude. That is what is going to be significant and important in this case. 30 to 40 degree latitude is going to be near to the tropics. So that's the basic reason it is going to be called by the name of subtropics. Somalia desert is the only one in this case. That's an exception that is lying closest to the equator on the eastern side of the desert. Because the general characteristic of the deserts is that all of them will go to lie on the western side. Now that is the place where a question can go to be framed in this case. For example, the one question that can be framed is, you can be given some of these names like 4 deserts, and you can be asked to find one odd one. For example, you will be given the name of Sahara, you will be given the name of Namibia, Kalahari, California, and then Somalia, and find the odd one out. That's one. Second way of this question is that they can go to ask you, consider the following statements. Now, statements that you're going to be following in this case is statement number 1 will be, there is most of the subtropical deserts going to owe their origin to subsidence. Second is, most of these subtropical deserts are going to be on the western side of the continents. Now, we will be coming on to why is it that these deserts can be on the western side of the continents. The third is, most of these deserts, there is only one desert that go on to be an exception to this general rule, that is Somalia, and that is it. All of these statements in this case go on to be correct. So that is going to be one form of a desert that we're going to be calling subtropical high pressure belt deserts. And high pressure is associated with whether the winds subside, and indeed the winds go on to subside in this region. It is the subsidence of the winds that is responsible for formation of this high pressure. These deserts go on to owe their origin to many factors. Subtropical high pressure belt deserts go on to owe their origin to many of these factors. First is, all these deserts lie in the trade wind belt. Now, trade wind belt means, take the case of Sahara. Take the case of the Sahara. Most of these winds go on to move in this manner. That's the way that they go on to move. That's the way that they go on to move. They are moving in the trade wind belt, that is equator. That is how they go on to move. This is the way, and this is how exactly these winds will go on to move. Now, when they go on to move in the trade wind belt, now imagine, even here as well, they will go on to move in this trade wind belt. That's the way that will go on to move. That is the way that will go on to move. All of this space. This is the way that they will go on to move. This is the way that will go on to move. This is also the way that they go on to move. Now think of it. The whole of this western region goes on to be devoid of any rain. Largely because when these winds have traveled over a considerable long distance over this continental body, they become dried up while they go to reach towards the western portion of it. So they lie in the trade wind belt. These trade winds blow in the northeasterly direction in the northern hemisphere, and the trade winds shed their moisture in the eastern part. They're going to shed all of this moisture here. So this is a region that goes on to become a region of very, very heavy rainfall. Even in this case, this is a region that goes on to become a region of heavy rainfall. But then all of these portions go on to become dry. These are the areas that go on to become completely dry. One that will go on to be shedding it with the solid color substance. That is where that goes on to be. Trade winds shed their moisture on the eastern part when they reach the western margin. And of course, this is the reason that they go on to become dry. So this is going to be one of these factors. All of the deserts going to lie on the western side. Here they go on to be Atacama. That goes on to be Californian desert. This is Sahara. This is the same desert in this case goes on to be Kalahari, and of course Australia as well. That is a subtropical high pressure belt, and they go on to owe their origin. Then these winds collide with in South America, all of these winds go on to collide with the Andes, undergo orographic accentuation and produce more rain. For example, this is how the winds will go on to move. Think of it. This is the way that the winds are moving. Now, as these winds go on to move, where they will go on to move? They will go on to collide with the Andes. These are the Andes mountains. That is, with which they will go on to collide. And as they go on to collide, they will go on to lead all of the rainfall. And then, on the western side, it will go on to become a rain shadow. So consequently, there will be no rainfall at all on the western side. On this western side, there is no possibility of any rainfall. Now it goes on to become a reason for the existence of deserts on the western side. They also go on to owe their origin to in all of these areas which has risen in the equatorial region, they go on to fall in some place. Now we are going to be talking about it. They are constantly subsiding. We have taken this aspect. Now go on to think of it. If this goes on to be an equatorial region, equator, this is the place from where the air goes into rise, comes back to 30 to 40 degree latitude. That is 0 degree. Now when these winds are subsiding in this region, there is absolutely no possibility of any rainfall taking place. Now, as these winds go to subside, these winds are subsiding here. So when these winds go to subside, they will go to lead to anticyclonic circulation. Anticyclonic circulation. That is, the winds will start moving in all directions. That is the way that the winds will start moving in all directions, away from the center. Now, when the winds are going to be sinking and they are going to be subsiding, they are going to move in every possible direction, and consequently, since the winds are not rising, there is no possibility whatsoever of any type of rain taking place in the region at all. Now, this is what we are going to say technically, as it goes into create stability in atmospheric conditions. When the winds are sinking and they're subsiding, the atmosphere goes on to become stable. And when the atmosphere goes on to become stable, then the whole of this sky goes on to become very, very clear. There is abundant amount of sunshine. There is no cloud cover because the winds are subsiding. Cloud will form only when the winds are rising, not when the winds are subsiding. So it creates a stability atmospheric condition, prevents cloud formation. Subsidence also leads to anticyclonic circulation, and technically speaking, it is not possible simply that any anticyclonic circulation will go on to lead to it. Why? Because in anticyclonic circulation, the winds are going to be diverging. Winds are diverging, that moves away from the center. It's like if we can go on to pick up or draw, that is, as the winds go on to sink, as they go on to sink and as they go on to subside, then it is from this center that the winds go on to start moving in different directions. Here, that's the way that they start moving in different directions. This is anticyclonic circulation. That's the way that they're going to circulate in the northern hemisphere. And anticyclonic circulation also goes on to blow the water away from the coastal regions. For example, you're going to understand it from this diagram. What happens? There are going to be two activities and two events that will go on to take place simultaneously in this region. Now, this is an example of what will going to happen when there is an anticyclonic circulation. Let's say that is we go on to be thinking of a coastal region, and this coastal region goes on to be close to Africa. This is going to be Africa, one part of it. And these winds go on to blow in such a direction. This is how they're going to move. That's the way. Now, as they go on to move in this manner, what happens is that is in the process of this, they're going to draw this water away. That is the water that was going to be here, that is going to be blown away. And that's the condition. If this is going to be the coastline and the air goes on to move away from it, this is the air that goes on to move away. So all the water is going to be blown away from this place. If this water goes on to blow away, if this water goes on to be blowing away from this place, what will happen is the water from below will go on to come and upwell. So when this water goes on to come from below and upwells, what will going to be then the temperature of the water here? This water temperature will go on to become cool. It will go on to be cooler temperature. So all of those western zones, let's say we are going to be talking about a Sahara here. The air has moved away and all of these regions are going to be known for cooler temperatures. All western deserts or all the deserts are going to be associated with such type of a desert condition and this type of cooler condition. Now it has two effects. The first effect is that even if there are going to be cooler conditions and even if the air has to move inward, as the air moves over cold water doesn't evaporate. So air, as it moves over cold water, it is not able to pick up moisture because in the process of its movement over cold water, it is not able to gather that much amount of evaporation, not able to capture that much amount of moisture. Consequently, the amount of rainfall, if it is to happen, if it is likely to take place, that goes on to decrease. I repeat it, that is, as the air moves over cold water, then the chances of it, that is, any chance of it having any type of a rainfall that goes on to decrease in this case. And why is it that it goes on to decrease? It decreases because of many reasons. Well, you can go to have a composite understanding of the whole of this region. Now, to begin with, we're going to pick up an example of the Sahara. Now, this is the region from where, this is the place where the winds go on to rise. Now, that's the place that the winds go on to rise, and they go on to rise and they go on to fall over Sahara. That's where, so it goes on to create a subsidence zone. That is number one. And when it goes on to create a subsidence zone, that leads to high pressure. And from this high pressure, the winds are going to move in every possible direction. And you're going to pick up another example of it. Now, as the winds go on to move away from this region, this is how the winds go on to move. As these winds go on to move away from this place, then in these coastal areas, all of these coastal areas, it is able to blow the wind away from these coastal areas. That is, the water is going to be blown away from this coastal area. And what happens? If you can go to see it in a different dimension, then these winds are being blown, that's being blown, that's a high pressure, that's a high pressure, this is the high pressure. And why it is high pressure? Because the air has risen from the equator. It has risen from this place and it has gone on to fall over this region. That's why it is a high pressure. Now, if you can go to see, this is the plan picture. This picture is going to be in plan. And when you're going to take it in profile, then that's the condition. This is going to be a land portion. That is land. And that is the water body. Now, this is how the winds go on to move away. This is the way that the winds move away. And as the winds go on to move away, they go on to move this water body away as well. This water also goes on to move. Now, as this water goes on to get blown away, then its place is taken by water that comes from beneath. This water that comes from beneath. And so, consequently, you're going to be having cooler water surface over here. this is the place where you're going to have a cool water. So the water will going to become cool here. That is the basic reason that all the deserts are along these regions, they're going to be having a cooler body. Now, if that is water is going to be cooler here, then it won't be leading to precipitation. It won't be leading to rainfall. And why it won't be? Because if you have to make a comparison, a warmer water body is always going to be responsible for inducing evaporation. A cooler body will not go on to induce evaporation. Simple reason. It will not go on to induce evaporation for what reason? That is, in water body, warmer water body, the molecules are very agitated. They keep on moving from here, there, and so on. In a cooler one, they are more stabilized. They don't want to leave the surface. And unless they're going to leave the surface, there won't be any evaporation. That is the basic reason why cool currents go on to accentuate the desert conditions, and desert conditions also going to accentuate the cool currents in this place. So that's what we are going to be talking about. In anticyclonic circulation, the water blows away from the shore and air is going to blow away from the shore. As it goes to blow away from the shore, it causes upwelling. And when there is an upwelling, there is always going to be a cooler water body on the coastal region, which goes on to suppress any amount of a rainfall over it. So, upwelling has two effects. First, it accentuates the stability. Stability means when the water is going to be low, cool, what will go to do? The temperature will also be low. And if the temperature is low, the air will sink and subside. Now, there can be two conditions. If the temperature is going to be high, then the air will go on to rise. And if the temperature is going to be low, the air will go on to sink and subside. It will not go on to rise. And when it doesn't go on to rise, it is going to be called as anticyclonic circulation. So, it is going to lead to anticyclonic circulation. Then cold upwelling water suppresses evaporation. This is what we talked about, that it will go on to lead to suppression of the evaporation. Why? Because cooler water will not go on to evaporate as much as a warmer water goes on to evaporate. And these are the 5 areas where such type of conditions are found. Bahar is pronounced as Bahar. This is the area that is going to be called by the name of Bahar. That's the name Bahar, not Baja. Atacama, that is going to be South America, Sahara, Namib, and Western Australia, where such type of conditions are going to be generally available. So that is going to be subtropical high pressure bed deserts. Now, on the basis of the underlying surface, you will going to find one of these deserts is going to be sandy desert. Sandy desert means it is going to be sand, sand, and sand. Now, that is the type of a movie-like conception that you may be having with respect to sandy desert. So, sandy desert is an undulating plain. Undulating plain means it is going to be this type of a plain. It is not going to be completely flat. It is going to be this type of a plane on it, undulating. It's not going to be completely flat. It will go on to be up, above, and so on. So, it's going to be an undulating plane produced by wind deposition, which is called as erg. Erg is the local name given to a sandy desert. It's in Sahara, Kaum in Turkestan. In Turkestan, that's the name that is going to be given. And of course, that way the largest erg in the whole of the world is going to be called by the name of Rub al Khali. Rub al Khali is the one that goes on to be in Arabia. Arabian desert is the largest sandy desert. Two questions that we can go to pick it up. Now, one of them is which of these places which cannot go on to be correlated with a subtropical high pressure belt desert. So, first there will be anticyclonic circulation. Second, there will be upwelling of the cold waters. The third, there will be a rocky surface. The fourth, there will be a sandy surface. Now, there are two factors that are going to be correlated with tropical deserts. Not that whether the surface is going to be sandy or rocky. Second is, you can be asked about to match the following. And this match the following can be erg, kaum, reg, and then Hammada. And that will be name will be given as Sahara, Turkestan, and so on. So that is the way that you have to orient yourself and orient your thinking in such a manner. The second is going to be stony desert. The stony desert, the surface is covered with boulders, gravel, cobbles, and they are angular pebbles. really angular in nature. It will be very difficult for anyone to walk over their shoes on over these regions. It's so angular, and it really sometimes goes on to hurt you. And these have been produced by diurnal temperature changes. And why exactly is it that they have been produced? They have been produced because the temperature difference between the day and night happens to be very high. And because the temperature difference is going to be very high, what happens is during the night time, the outer shell of the rocks going to become cool. Daytime they expand, expansion, contraction, and the rocks going to break apart, leading to formation of such type of angular pebbles spread all over. And in its name is going to be called by the name of reg. Reg is what is going to be the name in Algeria, Seri in Libya. Now all of these local names are going to be significant for you because this is where these questions are going to be asked from. Most of these questions, such type of factual questions, they can be associated with some of these examinations, like provincial services examination. You're not in UPSC. The third is going to be rocky desert. Rocky desert is going to be a bare rock exposed onto the surface. You can go to take a look at it. It's bare rock, not an inch of vegetation. It's not angular fragments. It's bare rock completely on the surface. It is this type of bare rock that is going to be called by the name of Hammada. Hammada is another synonymous name for such type of a bare rock surface in the region. Then, over and above, you're going to talk about it, salty desert. That's the fourth one that is in the line of on the basis of underlying surface. So you have a salt on the surface. So this develops in areas where evaporation rates are very high, where somehow a good amount of water has come to accumulate. As the water accumulates, it goes on to dissolve the salts. As the water evaporates, it leaves the salt behind. And then the water evaporates, salt is going to be finding itself on the surface, leading to formation of it. So Dasht-e Kavi is going to be one. Dasht-e Kavi is the largest salty desert in the world. And of course, we have talked about Taklamakan, that is where the Chinese is going to explode their atom bomb, and Loknaw Lake in Taklamakan. That is a part of it. That is salty desert. On the base of this underlying surface, there is going to be another of this type of desert called as badlands. These are the type of badlands that you're going to find in Chambal. And these develop in semi-arid regions, not purely arid regions, because there is some amount of a role of water over this region. So they develop in semi-desert regions, mainly as a result of water erosion and of course produced by torrential rainstorm. And they go on to have such type of a look. That is, you're going to find deep gullies, ravines, and they don't going to look very good to look at. That's the reason that consequently they are going to be called by the name of badlands. And this is one of this area which used to be inhabited by people which used to be called as bad. But then most of those people, who used to be dacoits, looters, they were the one who were the harbingers of justice for the poor people who used to be living in Chambal in India. So they have been branded as dacoits by the Congress regime. But effectively, if you go on to ask the people around it, they were the one who were trying to protect all of those oppressed people from any type of a crime, from any type of an injustice that was going to be done to them. Then coming on to the last part of it, that is biological deserts. Now, biological deserts are going to be those days where the biological productivity is very, very low and it's almost completely absent. Now, these are the type of deserts that are going to be completely nutrient starved. And when we're going to be talking about a nutrient-starved desert, we are effectively talking about those type of deserts where there is hardly any amount of a nutrient available on the surface. And when there is no nutrient available in the surface, of course, it's a biological desert. And these deserts can be anywhere. It can go to be sandy desert. And these biological deserts also going to find a manifestation even in the land in certain type of places. For example, you will going to find one of such type of desert in Ladakh, Loma Yiro, is one such type of biological desert. And this is because the productivity in this case is going to be very low because of many factors. That is, it can go to be because of a very low level of moisture. That is going to be one. Loma Yiro in Ladakh is going to be a moonscape. That is the type of a landscape that you're going to find on moon is what is the type of landscape that you're going to find in the Mario. This of course is going to be such a biological desert, can going to be Gobi, Atacama, Rubel Khali, as well as some salt deserts as well in this case. And when we're going to be talking about such type of salt deserts, then not the whole of it, but a major portion of it goes on to be under such type of an influence. The best example of biological deserts happen to be over water bodies. And when we're going to be talking about water bodies, you're going to be picking up oceans as well as enclosed seas. In the oceans, when there are some water bodies that are going to be away from, I repeat it, they are going to be away from the coast. They are going to be having a deep blue water. Now, bluer the water and further the location of the water bodies away from the coast, they are likely to behave like a desert because most of the nutrients in the oceans come from the land. And if there is going to be any location that is going to be far away from the land, and that is going to be in the midst of a large water body, for example, in the middle of the Atlantic, for example, the middle of the Pacific, you're going to find that the sea will be deep blue in this place. And if it is going to be deep blue, it is an indication of the fact that it is no biological productivity. You won't go on to find a fish in that region unless these fishes are migrating from one place to another place. Some of these like dolphins, sharks, whales, which go on to take a long migratory route in this case. So these are the ocean waters, which are characterized by low phytoplankton biomass and regions of ocean that contain very low biomass productivity. And of course, there is contain low phytoplankton biomass index as chlorophyll concentration. So because there is nothing to eat for the fishes in this region, consequently, why is it that the fishes will be found in this place at all? And this is a perfect desert as well once again. So that is going to be in the ocean. So deserts are not only going to be in any what we going to call it as in land bodies, it is also going to be in the water bodies too. So deserts are definitely going to be of a different type. And when we going to say that the deserts are going to be of different type, then to sum it up, they can go on to be on the basis of the location, on the basis of the underlying surface, on the basis of the productivity, on the basis of the climate and whatnot. Deserts are not only those areas where the temperatures are high and there is sand, sand and sand. This is not a movie-like conception of the deserts.
To have more such discussion and analysis, subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon. And if you like the video, please do not forget to hit the like button so that we get inspired to give more such discussions in the coming future.